We're back for another round in the Traitors' castle, and last time, the faithful successfully put the majority vote for Nita, a traitor, to head out. However, due to a twist the night before, the traitors got to pick 5 people's votes that would count for the banishment. Therefore, the vote turned into 2 votes for Nita, and 3 for Pablo, meaning the traitor successfully sniped out a faithful in one of the biggest blindsides we've seen. Will the traitors be able to bounce back from all the heat they are getting? We'll find out today. Darren is the first to enter the breakfast room, and he sits down, analyzing the table to figure out what to eat first. In confessional, Darren says that he's feeling pretty good right now. Him and Cassandra seemingly earn trust from a lot of people, so banishments aren't the main concern for him. The murders are definitely the scariest because the traitors have full control over who leaves. Back in the room, Olivia comes in next, greeting Darren as she heads to her seat. Darren asks her if she has any suspects in mind after last night's crazy banishment, and Olivia throws Nita under the bus, claiming that she could have easily saved herself at that banishment by manipulating herself and Darla into voting Pablo. Darren asks Olivia to clarify what even happened with the votes on Pablo, and Olivia admits that she had chats with Nita that involved throwing Pablo out as a suspect. In her head, she was convinced he was a traitor based on his actions during the first few days of the game. In confessional, Olivia admits that it hurts to throw Nita under the bus, but she realized that there's no chance for her, Nita, and Darla to stay alive after their sole votes on Pablo. It was way too convenient, and now she wishes they all came up with a different strategy to save Nita last night. Today will be tough because Nita will know her time is coming to an end. Back in the room, Emma enters, followed by Yasu, Jonathan, Alessandro, and then Amira. Yasu tells the group that he has one of the 2 shields from yesterday. Emma says she's not surprised because he's generally seen as innocent. Yasu thanks her, but says that he's not going to volunteer for the shield every round because of that. He wants to take risks and have the right to vote. Amira then brings up her suspicion of James. Last night, she voted him mainly because his reactions seem very fake and he randomly sided with the majority during the Zack boot. Alessandro then asks Amira if she thinks the majority of the traitors voted Zack that round, and Amira thinks that is the case. She believes James and Nita are locked in as traitors, though she's more confident about James being one. Darren then says that pretty much everyone in this room can agree Nita is a traitor. Then, Penelope walks into the room, saying hello to everyone. Not too long after, Darla walks in. In confessional, Darla says that she feels like she was played yesterday. She was played by Nita. She spearheaded the idea of Pablo being a traitor, and then he coincidentally went home with the 3 votes he got. Things just don't add up, so she'll lock in her vote for Nita if she doesn't volunteer for the shield. Back with the group, Darla tells everyone that she's locked in for voting out Nita. It's very clear to her that she's indeed a traitor. Jonathan says that pretty much everyone knows she's one, but it's up to the faithful if they want to keep her around in case of a recruitment. Emma asks Jonathan what he's talking about, and he tells her that he thinks there will be 2 traitors left if they banish Nita. They will then be allowed to recruit, and it's much harder to figure out the recruitment if that traitor has experience. At least it'll be easier if the recruitment happens much later, since it'll be easier to find attitude shifts. In confessional, Jonathan feels like it's better to banish someone who is still a top suspect, but not as high as Nita. This is so they can gather more information from these banishments, as well as from Nita herself. She might accidentally leak one of her teammates if they keep her around for long enough, so it's better to use her as bait. Back in the room, Jonathan warns everyone in here to keep this a secret from the rest of the players coming in. If Nita or her traitor allies find out that they want to use Nita as bait, this plan won't work. The door then suddenly opens, and in comes Christephanie. They all say good morning to her, and she sits down. Out of the blue, Yasu asks Christephanie to tell everyone who she's most suspicious of, and Christephanie says she cannot think of a solid name right now. However, she will say that Nita has come off of her suspicious list because this was clearly a setup to get her out. If Nita really was a traitor, she wouldn't make it so obvious like last night. Darren tells Christephanie truthfully that after she said that during their chat last night, he felt like it was a bit suspicious from her, considering she and Nita voted together during the Zach vote. It almost felt like the two of them were hardcore teaming up, and coincidentally, it all changed as soon as the twist occurred. Christephanie shrugs and says that she doesn't really associate with Nita anymore because it's very likely she's a traitor. In Darren's confessional, he says that he's getting very weirded out by Christephanie's choices in the game. Anything she says never adds up. This is someone he has to target, whether it's today or tomorrow. Nevertheless, she has to go as soon as possible. Sasha then enters the room, and everyone is relieved to see her alive and well. She admits she was nervous because she didn't even get the shield, so now everyone is curious who else has it next to Yasu. Danielle then comes in, showing off her shield to everyone, which answers their question. Amira then says that James, Nita, Crystal, and Cassandra are the last people yet to enter. Emma then says it's likely between Crystal and Cassandra because she knows for sure James and Nita are traitors. Darla agrees and says she'll be in complete shock if Nita or James end up dead. Then, Crystal comes into the room, and Darren's face goes cold. Penelope then tells Crystal that it's down to Nita, James, and Cassandra, so basically Cassandra is dead. Alessandro says you never know until it's confirmed, so for all they know, James or Nita could end up dead. Crystal stands in shock, saying she could cry right now. In confessional, Crystal feels like today is one of the sadder days in the castle. Cassandra most likely was murdered, and the two of them were super close in here. It sucks to see someone you trust get out of the game, but all she can do is move on from here and try to get revenge for her. Back inside, James walks in, leaving just Nita and Cassandra. Penelope then shouts that Cassandra died, just in case James didn't know already. Danielle sighs and says she'll miss Cassandra. Darren tries to keep positive, though he knows the worst just happened to him. In confessional, Christephanie says she's taken aback by how ruthless the faithful are. They pretty much know Nita and James are traitors now, and they're not swaying from that. They probably also think she's a traitor, so basically Olivia is the only one off of the hook. She's also the least active traitor, which is beginning to tick her off. If she's trying to play under the radar, the other three traitors might have to pressure her in the game so she doesn't go unscathed all game. Nita is then the last person to enter the room, confirming that Cassandra was murdered. Yasu says she'll be missed, and in confessional, Yasu mentions that the alliance of 4 he was in is now down to 3, that being himself, Sasha, and Darren. In a flashback, Cassandra finds out she was the one murdered, and she sighs but keeps on a happy face. She had a lovely time here playing the traitors, but she of course wishes she got a taste of how it is to be a traitor. She's super proud of herself for making it this far, considering how her and Darren were an obvious duo going in. She hopes Darren can pull out a win. If he was a traitor all along, that's a huge shock to her. Either way, he better come home with the money. With Cassandra as the latest victim of the traitors still feel the heat as the faithful feel like James, Nita, and Christephanie are the top suspects. However, Nita talks with Christephanie to see if they can come up with a plan to keep themselves safe. In confessional, Nita says that she has no choice but to put all of her trust into Christephanie. The two of them knew right away that they'd work together as traitors, so now is the time they back each other up. They are in a corner together, so they need to find a way out of said corner. Christephanie then tells Nita that everyone is basically convinced she's the traitor. Nita says she's not surprised, but hoped there was still a chance that last night's twist would throw them off. Christephanie then also mentions that majority of them believe James is also a traitor. Nita sighs and says that literally all traitors have been caught except for Olivia. She's clearly playing the best traitor game right now. In Christephanie's confessional, she admits that today will be one of the hardest days for her in this game. There's always a way to get out of sticky situations, even if it's temporary. With Nita as her closest ally, the only way she can be saved is if they push for James to go instead. It sucks that they told each other not too long ago that they'd never throw each other under the bus, but hey, they are traitors. They shouldn't trust each other to begin with. Christephanie then tells Nita that they will have to take out James today if they think they have a shot at surviving a bit longer. Nita covers her mouth, but feels like she has to agree with that plan. They literally have no other choice. Christephanie says that they are traitors after all, so they not only kill faithful, but they also kill traitors if they must. Nita feels like this will be a savage play by them, but it has to be done. Meanwhile, Darren, Emma, Penelope, Sasha, Yasu, and Crystal all chat, confirming that they are targeting both James and Nita today and tomorrow. Yasu even says that Christephanie could be considered as a banishment option before James since she and Nita are acting as a duo without trying to make it too clear to everyone else. Penelope agrees and says she'd rather have the vote order be Nita, then Chris, and then James. In confessional, Penelope says that she's pretty certain that Nita, Christephanie, and James are the last traitors remaining. However, the faithful want to keep Nita around as bait, so in her eyes, Christephanie would be a great banishment today to see how Nita reacts. Crystal then says that she'd much rather target James before Christephanie, only because she feels like they have one or two men as traitors. With the numbers being less on the guy's side, there's a high chance they get it right with James. Sasha isn't a fan of that though, claiming that for her own game, she knows Christephanie is her threat. If Chris stays alive, she will murder her. In confessional, Crystal gets sassy as she tells Sasha that this game is individual at the end of the day. So her wanting Christephanie gone for her own game will not work for others. They are not here to play the Sasha and Yasu show. Later on, Danielle talks with Alessandro, telling him that she has a very strange feeling in her gut that James is in fact faithful. Maybe even Nita surprisingly. Alessandro shrugs and says that he'd much rather banish Nita as soon as possible, just to be sure. In confessional, Danielle says that she likes exploring every option possible. Right now, everyone is looking at Nita and James. However, she wants to think of plan B, or C, or even D. At the moment, she's starting to feel off about Sasha. She's being considered the faithful queen, yet she hasn't been murdered yet. Why haven't the traitors targeted an obvious faithful? Danielle then tells Alessandro that she's unsure how to approach the round table tonight with her suspicion because the person in question is Sasha. That lady has a lot of power in this game, mainly at the banishments. Why haven't the traitors gotten her out? Alessandro is amused by this thought, telling Danielle that she's thinking like a faithful. Danielle is happy to hear that Alessandro is siding with her on this thought, and she tells him that she's not sure how to pursue this theory without getting herself in trouble. Alessandro tells her to take it slow because right now, people definitely want Nita and James out. Once they go, that's her chance to get Sasha under fire. In a different conversation, Amira and Christephanie discuss their shared suspicion of James. Christephanie says that her gut is telling her that James is trying to frame Nita. Amira adds that James and Yasu are the only two newbie men alive, and there's a high chance a newbie guy became a traitor. Yasu is one of the more faithful-seeming people at the moment, so her money is definitely on James. In confessional, Amira says that she has been onto James for a while now, and she needs him gone today and not tomorrow. She might not even see tomorrow if James is still here. Hopefully, this idea that Nita should stay alive to bait her out is true because she feels much better keeping Nita around as a traitor than James. Amira then says that she selfishly wants James out over Nita because Nita is less likely to murder her if she's a traitor. Crystal then comes into their conversation, and Christephanie lets her know they are thinking of doing James tonight. Crystal tells them she's on board with this because she too wants James out. Christephanie says that if Nita is indeed a traitor, at least she is the reason the three of them are still alive. They are all friendly with her. Crystal shrugs and says she's mainly targeting James first because he's not as suspicious as Nita for other people, so it's better to take out the snake in the grass. Either way, a traitor will be going. If James is somehow not a traitor, they might have to start looking at Yasu and Sasha because they are the ones who originally went after him. Enough time has passed, so it's now time for the faithful crown ceremony. Everyone gathers at the courtyard, learning that today's ceremony is the usual. Whoever wants a chance at getting voted for the shield must stand up to volunteer, but they will lose their vote at tonight's banishment as a result. With that, the players are given a countdown, and then 6 people stand up. Amira, Alessandro, Darla, Sasha, Darren, and Emma all stand up. They are then given some time to give speeches if they wish, so Darla starts off by telling everyone that she feels like she was set up at last night's banishment. She doesn't mind saying this out loud, but she feels like Nita set her up. Nita then gives a confused look, and Darla continues by telling everyone that she's worried that if Nita is alive after today, she will murder her to remove her as the witness to the whole Pablo vote situation. Emma then tells everyone that she'd love if they all vote her instead of Darla because a princess needs her shield. The Joker doesn't need one because their life isn't as worthy. Darla's jaw drops and many others are stunned by the speech. Darren then says that he obviously lost the love of his life, so the traitors are probably looking at him next. It's fair to say that people are on the same page with this next vote, so he's relying on those people to vote instead of him. Amira then says that she wants the shield a second time because she's gunning hard for a certain individual, and most people know about it. Perhaps the person themselves knows as well. She'd love the protection in that case. Sasha then says that she volunteered for obvious reasons. She just doesn't feel so safe in this game now that they are lower in faithful numbers. With that, the rest of the players start to vote in secret, and in Yasu's confessional, he says he's obviously going to vote Sasha for the shield. Everyone should vote her in fact. Nobody should do the whole fake-out stuff by pretending like Sasha will get the shield but actually voting someone else to see if the traitors will take the bait. Then, in Zonathan's confessional, he says his vote will go on Darla because everyone knows Sasha is the obvious choice for the shield. There's no point in voting her if the traitors won't consider her for murder, so Darla seems like a more likely kill right now. In Danielle's confessional, she says that there's no chance Sasha is getting her vote. She's starting to become suspicious because she seems like she feels super safe in this game by not volunteering for every shield vote. Coincidentally, she's volunteering on the day where the vote is super obvious anyway. Her vote wouldn't matter today. Then, in James' confessional, he mentions how none of the traitors volunteered, which is key for today if they plan to survive. Their goal right now is to get Darla voted out at tonight's banishment because she's the easiest to blame right now. He's going to vote Darla in that case for this shield vote because if she's going home, at least that takes out the shield factor as well. In Christephanie's confessional, she too votes for Darla. And then in Nita's, she also votes for Darla. Olivia's confessional is the same, as she also votes for Darla to ensure the shield doesn't impact the murder tonight. After everyone has voted, the results are in, but of course, nobody will be told the results in public. In Darla's confessional, she's surprised to find out that she won the shield today. She thought someone like Sasha or Darren would get it, but perhaps people feel like those two aren't dying regardless tonight. In Darren's confessional, he says that he's quite disappointed that people didn't give him the shield today. Even as a nice gesture since he just lost his girlfriend. People are playing this game more ruthless than he thought, so he'll have to just play ruthless as well. When the time comes, he won't care throwing names out there, even if they haven't been brought up before. With the faithful crown ceremony finished, the players head to the banishment room for their next banishment. In Olivia's confessional, she admits that tonight will be rough because she has to throw Nita under the bus to save her own game. Nita, Chris, and James will likely gun for Darla, but there's no chance of her going home. She'll just have to side with the faithful, even if it disappoints James and Christephanie once they meet at the turret tonight. Everyone is then seated at the table, and as a reminder, only 9 people are voting tonight, that being James, Penelope, Yasu, Nita, Danielle, Christephanie, Crystal, Olivia, and Zonathan. With that, the discussion can commence now, and Alessandro starts off by asking Sasha one simple question. She turns to him, a bit surprised that she's being questioned first of all people. Alessandro then asks her why she hasn't volunteered for the shield at every possible opportunity, ever since she became more active in the game. He's asking this because she suddenly volunteered today, but she didn't in the past. Sasha then tells him that in this game, you don't have a huge say in the banishment if you don't have a vote. If you have a vote, you have a better chance at taking out your target. Danielle then speaks up to tell Sasha that she voted in the minority every single vote. So she's a bit confused by her explanation here. Sasha says that she volunteered today, so she doesn't know what they are on about. Danielle says that she has been super fishy to her lately, just based on these faithful crown ceremonies. It just doesn't add up that the group's most seemingly faithful player is not volunteering for shields. Yasu then defends Sasha, telling Danielle and Alessandro that it doesn't matter if Sasha volunteers or not. You have to think of it like a captain and their ship. Sasha nods and says she's going down the sinking ship if she has to. At least she can leave the game knowing people trusted her as a faithful. Darla then tells Sasha that Alessandro and Danielle brought up a really good point, so now she too is questioning whether the faithful are looking in the right direction or not. Alessandro specifies that it's not a case of whether they are looking in the right direction, but it's rather they need to figure out who the 3rd or 4th traitors are. They need to explore every option. Sasha then says that she'd like to bring up Nita and James as the top 2 suspects for the group right now. They all basically agreed that they will go back to back because it's hard to think of them as faithful at the moment. James then says that he doesn't like when people tunnel on him just based on his reactions. They don't know him personally enough to recognize what a fake emotion is. Sasha clarifies that it's more than that. His voting history doesn't add up to her as someone who pitched in the early days how good these reality stars will be in this game. Yet, he sides with one, also known as Chris. James says he trusts Chris, so of course he'll keep her. Sasha says it's not clear to her why he trusts Chris after all the things she did that were suspicious. If he really thought those things weren't suspicious, he would have defended Chris. Christephanie then speaks up to tell Sasha that she doesn't think it's fair to accuse someone because of the path they want to take in this game. If James thinks someone is faithful with his own reasons, he shouldn't be pressed for it. James then says he wants to bring up a name tonight to hopefully clear his own name a bit, since people seem to think he's suspicious. He wants to bring up Darla's name tonight because he's thinking back to the Kira murder. He feels like Darla is the one person who would suggest Kira as a murder option as that was her friend. Darla smirks and shakes her head in annoyance, but James continues his list of reasons. He adds that Darla is always strange in her voting patterns. At the beginning, she went with the herd to get Haley out, and since Haley was an emotional traitor, she voted her back at her banishment. Then, when Zach and Chris were targets, she sided with the side with more newbies because she wanted to keep herself safe going forward with these banishments. Finally, she was part of this whole twist scandal situation last night as she voted for Pablo, yet Pablo was one of her biggest defenders. There's too many things against her right now to where he feels like people need to seriously switch their minds and vote her out. Darla scoffs, shocked by James and his pitch against her. She then replies, telling James that she was very clearly framed for the Kira kill, and a lot of people can agree with it. With the whole Haley situation, she called out Haley since day one, and like he said, she played an emotional game, so she went for the one person who spoke against her the most. Not only that, but she was tight with Emma and Penelope, so since they went for her, Haley jumped on as that was her only option. Finally, with last night's vote, she already explained why she voted Pablo. Nita manipulated her, hence why Nita is getting her vote tonight. Nita smiles and says that's nice, and she is happy to say she's voting her back. She agrees with a lot of what James is saying. Many people think it's two traitors teaming up against Darla, but that's only because they can't see what she's seeing in James. The two of them are the most accused players right now, so they are the only ones who can understand each other. James says that he's even happy to say that he had conversations with people about his suspicion of Darla, and he mentions how Olivia agrees with it. Olivia then goes cold, and everyone turns to her. Darla asks her if this is true, and Olivia gulps. Chris and Nita both stare intensely at Olivia to see what she'll say, and Olivia then says she was part of the conversations where Darla was brought up as a possible traitor. Danielle smiles because of how juicy this discussion is getting, and Darla tells Olivia that she feels a bit betrayed now by her. She can't believe nobody told her this information. Penelope then decides to speak next, telling everyone that she still thinks Nita is the traitor, and for that reason, she would rather just vote her out right now. She knows there are other plans for tonight, but she thinks they should all just stick to one plan, and that's voting for Nita. Nita says she still doesn't understand why people think it's her, and Penelope says that this type of response from her is a typical traitor response. They don't know what to say, so all they can say is they don't know why they are being accused. Nita is confused though, telling Penelope that if she's referring to her points from the past, she already defended herself from those accusations. She told people today that she was set up by the twist last night, so people think it's her even more. Danielle then speaks up, saying that she was one of the people who originally thought of Nita as a traitor, but the twist sure seems fishy. Sasha then stares down Danielle, asking her if she's gonna start saying that she was the one who set up Nita. Danielle laughs and says she wouldn't be shocked if someone as smart as Sasha was the one who set it up. Yasu then tells Danielle that it wouldn't make sense if someone outside of Darla, Olivia, and Nita set up the twist perfectly to take out Pablo. It had to be someone within the group of three, and that's why Nita is considered a top suspect. James says he thinks Darla was the one who set it up, but Darla tells James that it wouldn't make sense since Nita was the one to put Pablo's name out there in the first place. There's no way Nita isn't a traitor because she was the one who set up the Pablo vote. She knew exactly which two players she'd manipulate. Her and Olivia. Olivia remains quiet, but Nita then asks publicly to Olivia if she thinks she was manipulated by her, and Darla interrupts, saying that Olivia is scared to speak right now because she knows Nita might not go home tonight, and if she speaks up against her, Nita will murder her tonight since she guaranteed doesn't have the shield. Olivia breathes out and says she's just sticking to her guns tonight and voting the person she wants to vote out. She'll provide more in her voting reasoning. The discussion is now done. The 9 voters must now vote to banish someone. The 9 voters are James, Penelope, Yasu, Nita, Danielle, Christephanie, Crystal, Olivia, and Jonathan. In confessional, Olivia says that she's not sure where this banishment is even going. Things were much simpler at the beginning of the day, but now people brought up other names she never expected. She just has to go with her gut tonight and vote the person she thinks will get the most votes. With everyone finished voting, Jonathan is asked to start everyone off by revealing his vote. He then flips his slate, showing that he voted for Nita. He's just very confused with everything that went down tonight, so he's going with the safe vote, and that's her tonight. James is then asked to go next, and he reveals that he voted for Darla. He already listed why he wanted to vote her out, but he basically feels like the biggest knock against her credibility is the fact that her and Haley went at it at the second banishment. '" . . Penelope is then next, and she shows her vote for Nita. She really feels like this is a confirmed traitor, so it makes no sense for them to keep her any further. We're now at 2 votes for Nita, and 1 vote for Darla. Yasu is next, and he shows that he voted for Danielle. He says that she's the one starting all the confusion in the first place, pushing very hard for Sasha to get banished. Danielle shakes her head in response, but Yasu says that he feels like Danielle is trying to throw everyone off so that she can save her traitor friends. Nita is asked to go next, and she reveals her vote for Darla. That's now 2 votes for Nita, 2 votes for Darla, and 1 vote for Danielle. Danielle is next, and she firstly tells Yasu that she never told people to banish Sasha tonight. This will be confirmed because of her vote. She ended up voting for James because to her, he's one of the more confirmed traitors at this point. He's trying to dig up whatever he can to save himself, and tonight, it was to get Darla out. That's now 2 votes Darla, 2 votes Nita, 1 vote Danielle, and 1 vote James. Christephanie is up next, and she says that she's basing her vote tonight from the discussion they had tonight. This person is very smart not just in life, but in the game. They would make a great traitor, so for that reason, she has to vote for James. James gives Christephanie a stunned look, but regardless, the voting goes on. Crystal is next to reveal her vote, and she says that she's voting for James tonight. It's mainly because of the reasons provided tonight, but also because of whatever crap he made up today about Darla. That's now 3 votes for James, 2 votes for Nita and Darla each, and 1 vote Danielle. Olivia is the final vote. If she voted for Nita or Darla, the vote will be tied. If not, James will be banished. Olivia is asked to show her vote, and she says that she's not here to get manipulated and have her emotions used against her. She then flips her vote to show Nita's name, and Nita's eyes light up. That means we are now at a tie, with there being 3 votes for Nita, and 3 votes for James. The other 7 voters must now re-vote for either Nita or James. Nita and James will not vote. The 7 voters then re-vote, and eventually finish writing a name down between James and Nita. Jonathan is up first again, and he shows his vote for Nita. Penelope goes next, revealing her slate with Nita's name on it. Yasu is next, and he shows his vote for James. We're now at 2 votes for Nita, and 1 vote for James. It takes at least 4 votes to get banished. Danielle is up next, and she shows her vote for James. We're now at 2 votes each. Christephanie is then asked to go next, and she looks up at James, showing her slate with his name on it. That's now 3 for James, 2 for Nita. Crystal is next, and she apologizes in advance, showing her vote for James. It's official. With 4 votes, James has been banished, but we need to see Olivia's vote. Olivia then flips her slate, showing that she voted for Nita. In a 4-3 vote, James has been banished, so he must head to the front to reveal his role. He gets up out of his seat, and Nita breathes out heavily. Olivia shakes her head meanwhile, feeling very awkward at the moment. Crystal then whispers to Alessandro that this better be a traitor. James stands at the front of the room and says that he's a very disappointed person right now. He feels like the statement of trust no one should be taken very seriously in this game. He really didn't expect such a split vote tonight, but that's what makes this game so unpredictable. Nevertheless, some people will be disappointed by this result, but most will be happy, and that's because they all just caught their next traitor. Everyone then celebrates that they got this right, and Crystal screams at the top of her lungs. Sasha is in awe, happy that her early suspicions of him were right. Nita continues to hyperventilate, calling this reveal a huge blindside to her. Darla cries meanwhile, joyful that the traitor who targeted her is now gone for good. James pieces out, and Nita shouts out to him that he played such a good game. Yasu then tells Sasha that he's so happy he made that move on James. Sasha tells him he did the right thing, just as planned from earlier this morning. Christephanie then tells the group publicly that every faithful should be proud right now. They got their second traitor and likely have 1 or 2 more to go. Yasu reminds the group that recruiting is possible for the traitors now. They have to keep that in mind going forward. In Christephanie's confessional, she breathes out because that vote was really tough. To look into James' face and show her vote for him was hard. However, she had to save Nita. That's her girl. With James out of the game, her and Nita have a better shot at survival. especially herself since she risked her game by voting for him. When it comes to Olivia though, it's clear she's a snake. She voted for Nita out of the blue, so now Nita and herself know that Olivia cannot be trusted. With another traitor down, the players are elated, and Emma and Penelope celebrate with some drinks alongside Darren, Alessandro, Amira, Christephanie, and Crystal. Penelope tells everyone to drink up because they deserve this as a reward for voting out a traitor. In Amira's confessional, she's happy that James was voted out. She was one of the main people continuing to push out his name, though trying to stay subtle at the same time. Obviously, Nita is the next obvious name up for banishment, but it's interesting how Alessandro and Danielle threw out Sasha's name. It's an interesting theory that should definitely be explored a bit more. Amira then asks Alessandro about his thoughts with Sasha, and Alessandro says he just asked a simple question and she answered it at the round table. Danielle was the one who took it a step further and accused her. Crystal says she was shocked that Danielle even brought up Sasha so much, considering they were all ready to vote out James or Nita. Emma says that it somewhat makes sense that Danielle is questioning her based on her SHIELD volunteering history. She only volunteered for the first time today. At least with herself, she is more careless if she dies or not. But Sasha is a hardcore fan and player of this game. In Emma's confessional, she can see a scenario where Sasha really is a traitor. She's using Yasu as her puppet because he's always the one who defends her. She doesn't even need to speak up for herself if she doesn't want to. He will be the one doing it all for her. Despite this, Danielle made a huge mistake confusing everyone at the discussion. It resulted in a very messy vote that could have gotten a faithful voted out. Meanwhile, Sasha, Yasu, and Nita sit together, and Nita asks Sasha if she knew Danielle would put her name out there, but Sasha confirms that it shocked her. In confessional, Sasha admits that Danielle came out of the shadows tonight to try getting her voted out. Even though she wants to deny it, it's true. For a moment, it seemed like she could have gotten out since her name was the only one out there for the discussion for maybe 20 minutes. Danielle's switch-up is so crazy, to the point where it seems like she tried saving James. Though, she still voted him out, so maybe she's just a faithful who is very confused. Nita then tells Yasu and Sasha that she feels like James was her manipulator the whole time. She trusted James every step of the way, and now she knows why she was in the wrong every day. Yasu tells Nita he just doesn't understand why James wouldn't just jump with the herd to vote her out, and instead did so much work to get Darla out. Nita says that she actually thinks Darla could be a traitor betraying yet another traitor. Haley voted Darla during her banishment. So did James now. Sasha smiles and says that it's an interesting theory that very well could be true. Before time is up for the day, Darla, Danielle, and Christephanie chat about the events today, and Darla says that she knows for a fact that Nita is a traitor. It's starting to add up because of how the twist went yesterday. Christephanie then says that it's still very possible that Olivia is a traitor since she was the third person in their voting block. In confessional, Christephanie says that she has no hesitation putting Olivia's name out there. The girl has been hiding in the shadows for so long, and now that she had to pick a side, she targeted Nita. She's going to have to continue targeting Nita because she knows Nita won't forgive her. Meanwhile, herself and Nita will be pushing Olivia's name because between Olivia, Nita, and Darla, someone had to be the one who set up the Pablo blindside. Olivia is the perfect person to frame it on. Danielle then says that she has been thinking more and more now that Nita is faithful. She's that one person, similar to Mari from last season, who is being tunneled by the faithful because it's easy. Darla then asks her if she is saying Olivia is a traitor, and Danielle says it's very possible because she did not vote for James tonight. She went the obvious route, which was Nita. In confessional, Danielle says that things are heating up right now, and it's getting exciting. Sasha and Olivia are her top two suspects, but she also hasn't forgotten about Christephanie. She's going to keep Chris though because there's still a chance she's not a traitor in the end, and she'll feel way too guilty voting her out in that case. With everyone needing to head to bed now, people say goodnight and hug each other as it could be one player's last night in the castle. In confessional, Yasu says that the faithful have a great advantage over the traitors right now. There's likely 2 of them left, and one of them could very well be Nita or Christephanie. He's just worried about this murder because he didn't volunteer for the shield. However, at the end of the day, he doesn't want to play this game scared. Not to mention, they are at a stage now where every vote counts, and tonight is a great example of that. It's now officially night time, and the 3 remaining traitor ladies meet up and unveil their hoodies. The room's energy feels way different now, considering they have 1 less traitor, and also a betrayal in the mix. Nita then turns to Olivia, simply asking why to her. She only says the word why. Olivia gulps, telling Nita that she didn't think they had the votes against Darla. It was super out of nowhere to start accusing her at the table. Nita says she could have supported the Darla move and they would have gotten 1 or 2 more votes. Instead, she betrayed her. Olivia then asks why she's not allowed to flip but Christephanie is allowed to, and Christephanie says that she was simply saving Nita. She claims to Olivia that she felt something was off with her, and Nita too agrees that she felt something wasn't right. Christephanie tells Olivia that she is way too under the radar at the moment. She's trying to blend in with the other faithful, and her and Nita see right through it. Olivia says that she's a generally quiet person, so it wouldn't make sense for her to play a loud game if people know her as a quieter personality. Nita tells Olivia straight up that she can't trust her moving forward. She tried not to give any warning signs of this betrayal, so she knows their relationship is cut and done. Olivia sighs and says she didn't want it to go this way, but Nita affirms she clearly did want it to go this way. She was the one who betrayed the team. It was her active decision. Christephanie then decides to break the tension, asking about the murder now. Nita breathes out and says they have to consider Yasu. He's clearly the faithful king around here, and he doesn't have the shield confirmed. Suddenly, the 3 traitors have a note drop from the ceiling, interrupting Nita's pitch. Christephanie then reads the note, finding out that the traitors must choose a faithful to get the role of nurse. This person will not be eligible for murder tonight, and they'll get the power to save 3 people from murder the following night. When nightfall occurs tomorrow, the nurse will secretly pick 3 people to shield from murder, and the traitors will not know who they choose. This nurse cannot reveal their power until after tomorrow's murder, otherwise they will be automatically banished tomorrow. The nurse is eligible for the banishment vote and the murder tomorrow night, but they can also choose to use one of their 3 saves on themselves. Olivia is amazed by this twist, and Nita says that it'll further complicate their plan to survive. This really throws them off their game because now the faithful potentially have 4 people who can survive murder tomorrow night. Christephanie then says that they need to pick someone who doesn't see at least 2 or all 3 of them as traitors. Therefore, it'll increase the chances of them picking one of them to save, resulting in 1 less protected faithful. Nita says that she only knows Amira and Zonathan would fit that description. Amira doesn't seem to think any of them are traitors outright, and Zonathan only thinks it's herself right now. Christephanie says she wouldn't trust Amira with the nurse power because she is a smart faithful right now. Zonathan on the other hand isn't super strategic and might pick the obvious faithful to save. He also might not save himself, so he could be an easy kill tomorrow. Olivia then asks if they are locking in this nurse role for Zonathan, and Nita and Christephanie say yes. As for the murder, Christephanie says that they should consider Amira for murder beside Yasu. Amira is a very smart player that has been undermined so far. Olivia says she doesn't see the benefits of killing Amira because she hasn't chosen a side to work with technically. She's her own person, so she's one of the more swayable players. Yasu is less swayable meanwhile. Nita then suggests killing someone who might be closer to their side to throw off the faithful. If they kill someone like Danielle or Crystal, 2 people without shields for sure, then there's the possibility that people think she's faithful. Christephanie likes Nita's thinking and agrees that people might think Nita is innocent after all, because why would she remove someone who could be on her side? Especially Danielle, because she seems like she's more focused on Sasha than Nita right now. Olivia then goes over their three options. They can either kill Yasu, who is a super strong faithful, or one of Danielle or Crystal, who are both leaning towards their own side, just to throw off the rest. The three traitors then agree upon a name, write the name on a scroll, and throw it in the pit ahead. Christephanie says that she won't be throwing Olivia or Nita under the bus tomorrow because there's no point. She'd harm her own game even more. Olivia promises she won't be outright on targeting either of them. She'll go back to her quiet self as usual. Nita says she too promises, but in confessional, Nita admits she's gunning for Olivia. There's no more trust between them. The girl is a snake and proves she cannot be trusted at all. She and Christephanie need to get Olivia out so they can confirm themselves as faithful to the rest, and then the two of them can reach the end a lot easier.